think what is interesting is, as a consequence of this, prescribing them under the Terrorism Act is that it's not just it won't just be illegal to be a member of Palestine Action. It will be illegal to show support for them. Mm-hmm. So saying things like we have said on this podcast, or saying things that are very mainstream views, like, oh, maybe I don't agree with breaking into an RAF base, but, I really appreciate how Palestine Action have drawn attention to the genocide in Gaza. You're showing support for Palestine Action, terrorist jail. It's insane. And I asked, I asked Clive Lewis if Sally Rooney, the Normal People author, she wrote an op-ed in The Guardian yesterday showing support for Palestine Action, and said even if they were proscribed, that she would still support them. And I asked Clive Lewis, does that mean that she could be arrested now? And he said, yeah, very possibly. Shall we hear him say that?
Yeah, let's hear that.
Could it result in someone like Sally Rooney, who wrote a very powerful op-ed in The Guardian today, being arrested for supporting Palestine Action?
It's entirely possible and entirely plausible. And I think the Home Secretary should be very careful about what she does today. I mean, she's made the commitment. She's going to make the statement in Parliament. I think, sometimes you to put your hand up and say, you might have got this wrong. I don't know who's advising her. I'd love to know who's advising her. But unfortunately, it feels to me this is very short-sighted and could have unintended consequences. Consequences I don't think anyone in the Labour Party would want to see, or anyone in the Labour government. We should cherish and protect the right to protest. But this is in a long line of actions by not just my government, but the government before, which has fundamentally undermined the right to protest. It's been weakened. I think when people voted for a Labour government, they thought that they would strengthen those protections, knowing what was happening. They didn't expect it to undermine them further. And that's what this feels like it is.
It's quite scary, isn't it? Does Sally Rooney live in the UK?
I don't know. Maybe she's still living in Dublin or something.
Yeah. She strikes me as someone that lives... I think she's from Mayo or somewhere, is she? Maybe she has a little hut in the west of Ireland that she writes her books in. But nonetheless, anyway, to have authors on the line of spending... I mean, whether she'd spend 14 years in jail or not is a different question. But it's quite a terrifying time to be in, that the association or support for an organization that's raising awareness for a genocide and Western governments' complicity in said genocide is quite... I saw a tweet that was like, the deindustrialization of the West has gone so far that we're not even manufacturing our own consent anymore. That there isn't any kind of strength of feeling in the UK for what the UK government is doing. And no matter how much the UK government tries to mask what it's doing or make it seem like what it's doing is good, there isn't a turning point in anybody's mind, I guess there is kind of a left-right divide in some way, shape or form when it comes to Israel's kind of campaign in Gaza. But it's not as clear-cut as other topics would be, know.
I think that's something that Clive Lewis again was hinting at, was saying that, this is Keir Starmer trying to appeal to a certain sect of society, by which he meant people that might be reform-minded, people that would have called the peaceful pro-Palestine marches hate marches, or those people taking part Hamas supporters, and people that want to see Keir being really tough on crime, or a government generally being tough on crime, that maybe this is for them. And a lot of the people that I spoke to yesterday who were at the protest I asked them, did you vote for Keir Starmer? Did you vote for Labour? And they said yes. Maybe his credentials as a human rights lawyer might have made them think he wouldn't do something like this. Or the fact that he actually defended anti-Iraq war activists who broke into an RAF base, and he defended them. I think on the technicality that property damage or criminal damage is allowed or there's a defense that means if it's to stop larger damage, such as a war or a genocide, that defense can be used and it can get people off in court. So maybe they were thinking that this record of Keir Starmer would mean that he wouldn't do something like this.
I mean, it's also the act itself that seems to be what triggered the proscription of Palestine Action, being an act that didn't harm a single individual, but harmed the reputation of a government and harmed the kind of the profile of the British state when it comes to its attitude towards Israel and towards Gaza, that the organization is showing this military hardware is used in some way, shape or form to support Israel's campaign in Gaza. And that seems to be what is the terrorist intent, is exposing a government's intentions or exposing a government's alliances or allegiances to a certain campaign. Kind of, it makes you think about what terrorism is and how you constitute terrorism, and the fact that reputation is such a part of what is considered terrorist and what isn't considered terrorist, that a group of people that just break into an airbase, that spray paint a plane, are now as dangerous as Islamic State, you know?
Yeah, I mean, because they're saying, or the government's saying that, you know, doing something like that, breaking into an RAF base, means that this group are threatening national security. But I think national security, or just the word security and how a government uses it, is so slippery. Because whose security? Because arming the Israeli state doesn't make me feel more secure as a Brit. It doesn't make me feel safer.
Yeah.
So national security is really a question. Well, whose security are we talking about here?
Yeah.
I think to go back to the point about policing protest and who could be criminalised as a result of this, I do think it's really interesting that it feels like the Labour government have kind of picked up the baton of where the Conservatives left off with a lot of the legislation that they were passing or looking to pass in Parliament. I mean, the Crime and Policing Bill, which is in the House of Commons just now, is the fourth anti-protest bill in Parliament in 4 years, which feels... Is that really Britain's most pressing legislative problem?
It seems like it. There's 4 of them in the last however many years.
And it seeks to further criminalise parts of protest, including banning face coverings and giving police the power to force people who are on limited visas to leave the country. So that's going to put so many people off coming out to protest. I mean, you're not going to protest something if you could be threatened with deportation, or if a lot of people like to wear face coverings because they're afraid it could, you know, affect their employment, or you know, these things are contentious and they just don't want to be identified. And with now the proscription of Palestine Action, is it going to put people, well, in fact, the intention is, I think, to put people off attending these protests, because what if you attend and then there are Palestine Action members there? Suddenly are you in the same group as them? Could you be arrested on a terror offence?